All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. I do ask just two things as we do this. Number one is if your phone is with you, if you please turn it off or just silence it so I don't get distracted. In fact, I need to do the same to mine. Number two is if you have questions, if you please just write those questions down. We will answer them. We'll do our best to answer them at the end. I got a lot of information that I want to get through, and let me get through the information, and when we're done, we'll provide a time then that we can ask specific questions, as long as they're not too specific, HIPAA rules and blah, blah, blah. But we'll have some time at the end. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Who here can define what autoimmunity is? Simple answer, please.
It's when your body turns against itself.
When your body turns against itself. Okay? We've known this for years. In fact, basically by the time you get a diagnosis of whatever the autoimmune condition is, it's gotten so bad that tissue is actually being destroyed. For example, rheumatoid arthritis, when the connective tissue in your joints is being attacked by your immune system, tissue gets destroyed, they can finally make a diagnosis. And once they make that diagnosis, what's the answer at that point?
Medication.
It's a medication. Steroids, immune system suppressors, it's all medication. And it's all treating the symptoms, not the root cause of what we're talking about. Okay? Now, by the way, my name's Brady Wyrick. I know you two know me, but the rest of you, welcome to my office. Yes, I am a chiropractor. Yes, I do enjoy moving bones. It is not the main part of my practice, however. Moving your joints is not going to fix your autoimmune problem. In fact, in some cases, it can actually make it worse. Okay, so we're not going to fix you by bending, popping, and cracking stuff. Am I okay to say that way? Okay, good. Now, this picture, I like telling stories. Okay, I get bored up here just rambling on and on about it. I like telling stories. Okay? This picture was taken last week, and what this picture came from was last Monday night we did a salad dressing class here in the office. Okay, so I asked my staff, in fact, Amanda, if you want to print a few copies of the recipe so we can give them to them when they leave, okay, I asked my staff to look back and write down a list of the things that we've helped people with over the years. And this is what they came up with. And I came around that corner right there when they had done this, and I saw that up on the board, and I went, holy smokes. That's a lot of stuff. And as I looked through those, each one of those had something in common. And that was the autoimmune component to this. Their own immune systems were attacking these people and causing these problems. And you'll see on the right where it says gluten, sugar, dairy, soy, vegetable oils. Those are inflammatory foods that stimulate your immune system to attack you. That's what the whole class was about. We'll give you the recipes before you leave. Fair? Okay. Now, so far, the technology gods are smiling upon us, so let's hope that we can get to this next thing without too much difficulty. Haha, there it is. Okay. I want to tell the story about this guy. His name is Lance, and Lance came to a seminar just like this one back in January. In fact, I think this picture was taken right before then. And Lance had been diagnosed with, I'm going to screw the name of this up, it was stage 4 metastatic carcinoma from an unknown source, which basically meant the guy had cancer. They didn't know what was causing it, and at this point, he was about 5 months into the 6 months of the rest of his life. The guy was my age, the doctors had given him 6 months to live, and he's here at my class. Okay? Now, he's sitting in the back, and the guy resonated with me, and I felt terrible. Okay? We got into the class, we were talking about the things that need to happen. He took what I said to heart. One of the things that rang true with him was I told people I come across 2 different types of people in the world. Number one, I call them number one type 1 people, and that is the people that are sheep. They follow exactly what their medical doctor tells them. What their medical doctor tells them is usually what the insurance company tells the medical doctor. and then they stick to that parameter. And if you start to get outside of that parameter, you're nuts, you're a quack, whatever. Okay? Then there's the type 2 people, I call them lions, and those are the people that are willing to do whatever it takes to actually get better. Okay? While Lance was in a very, very bad place of where he was at that time, he didn't actually come in to see me, but he just took the information I gave him at that seminar and applied it. Okay? Keep in mind, this is 5 months into a 6-month death sentence. There's Lance today. 100 pounds lighter. They can't find evidence of the cancer anymore. I'm not here to talk about cancer. This is not a cancer seminar. I'm just telling you, we got his immune system to calm down and stop attacking him. And this picture he sent me today. He was up chopping wood today. Now, again, this is not a cancer seminar. But there's one more picture I want to show you. Does that guy look familiar? I know you guys have seen that picture before. Hey, look at me. Look at that guy. Does that guy look familiar? This is in 2009. Hey, I had testicular cancer, and this is my last day of chemotherapy. I'm sharing this with you for one reason, and that reason is that the medical world, modern medicine, saved my life. Hey, without the chemotherapy, I would have died. Period. Okay. So as we get into this tonight, please don't take it like I'm anti-medicine. I'm not. What I'm against is anti-bad medicine. And when it comes to not finding out where your immune system problem is coming from and dealing with that cause, that's bad medicine.
That doesn't even look like you.
I know.
don't think that's you.
Really?
Actually, I do see it. But he's lost a lot of weight since then, too.
I've gotten buff since then. There's another picture on that computer right there that when my hair came back, it was like afro curly. It was awesome. Like they even had a pic in it.
Oh my
When
God.
we're done, I'll see if I can find it for you. It's fantastic. All right. So, with that in mind, let's talk about the nuts and bolts of this. Okay. There's really 2 main things that I want to talk about tonight that play into each other to drive your immune system. All right, we're going to start talking about your brain, because your brain plays an integral role in this whole process. Okay, so when I meet with people, by the time they get to me, they've been down the medical road. They've had everybody try to drug them with everything, and by the time they get here, there's sleep issues, there's pain issues, there's all these other things that are perfectly explained by talking about brain pathways. Okay, so when I talk about the brain, you have what's called the cortex, and I kind of liken this to a piece of broccoli. Okay, the top of the broccoli, the flower, the part that you actually eat, is your cortex. And going up into your cortex is the part of your brain called your brain stem that looks just like the stem of the broccoli. Can you picture that? Okay, now tucked neatly up into this area right here is the part of your brainstem called your mesencephalon, which is a fancy way of saying the top part of your brainstem. Okay, this mesencephalon is the on-off switch to your flight or fight nervous system. Okay, the part of your brain, Amanda, can you kill the TV for me, please? Not kill it, but, you know. Or is it a button on the side?
There's a button on the side.
No, I never need these things. Hey, look at that, there it is. I can help myself. This part of your brainstem activates your stress response. Okay, so when it gets flipped on, you do things like stimulate these glands that we're going to talk about in a minute called your adrenal glands. It stimulates your respiration to increase. It stimulates your pulse rate to increase. Everything that you would need to either fight or run away from whatever danger that you're in. That's this upper part of the brainstem. Okay? I will show you why that's important here in just a minute. Fair? Okay.
What's the top one?
This right here?
That word.
Come on, you can't read that? Mesencephalon.
Huh.
Call it midbrain. That's the English word for it. All right, so the first thing we look at when we're dealing with autoimmunity is number one, let's look at some blood work. When you go to the doctor and you get your blood drawn, they come back with this nice lab report that has ranges. It's got a laboratory low range and a laboratory high range. So we're going to use the example of blood sugar because that's the one I can think of off the top of my head. When you go to the doctor, if your blood sugar is between 65 and 99, everything's fine. You're within that normal range, right? Here's the problem with that. That's a really broad range. And you can do this with every single marker when we look at blood work. So if you have this really broad range and you're at the lower end of this range, you're still normal, everything's fine. We don't look at it that way. We want to look at what we call functional ranges, which are found more in this range. Now for blood sugar, the functional range is actually 85 to 99, so it goes all the way out to here. But my point is we're looking at more narrow results. So I met with a girl this afternoon who, if you looked at her lab work, it would look like everything was fine except for her cholesterol levels were off a little bit. But once you start looking at it with functional ranges, I don't know them off the top of my head because I rely on a computer program, so we enter them in the computer and they come back and they give me this really cute, this cool, colorful report. Then it tells me the functional ranges. So I start looking at her, and I start looking at her white blood cells, which are your immune system cells, and I see all these white blood cells that were normal on her laboratory ranges, but they were skewed when we looked at them functionally. It was an aha moment. She was dealing with a chronic, low-grade inflammatory process. And there's areas that comes from when we look at this, okay? So when we're looking at blood work, we have our priorities for everybody, but my point is we need to sit down and look at those and figure out what the little keys to each individual person are. Or would you rather me just say, you have rheumatoid arthritis, here, take steroids for the rest of your life and an immune system suppressor, wish you luck. Okay, it doesn't work out so well that way, does it? All right, so when dealing with this, so we want to look at these functional ranges, but with everyone, our first priority is, well, are they autoimmune? Since we are at an autoimmune seminar, that's kind of a duh statement, right? You're here, you have a diagnosed autoimmune problem, duh, right? Second thing we want to look at is there an anemia pattern happening? And when I say anemia, I'm not talking about iron. There are several different types of anemias, including the most common one, a B12 anemia, that we can find from blood work. And where that's going to come back to is stomach acid. Don't raise your hand when I ask this question, but how many people here are taking something for their stomach acid because they have reflux? I said don't raise your hand.
Oh, sorry.
You're fired. Okay. Look, most people that I see, yes, on the video, you just heard a dog barking in my office. Welcome to my office. Okay. Most people that I see actually have too low stomach acid. When that happens, you don't properly break down protein. You don't properly break your proteins down. And that stuff that's coming up causing your reflux is actually lactic acid, not stomach acid. Okay, that's going to be huge here in just a second. But my point is you don't convert B12 to a usable form, and your cells don't get proper oxygen that they need, and that boosts this inflammatory process that's causing the pain and inflammation that you're dealing with. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. The second thing, or the third thing here, third priority is going to be blood sugar. We've already addressed that initially, but here's the thing. When you wake up in the morning, where should your blood sugar be? Nice and low, right? Because you've been fasting all night long. So when you go to the pantry and grab a bowl of Fruit Loops, what's going to happen to you? I'm with you. Hey, what's going to happen to your blood sugar? It's going to spike really high. Your body's going to overproduce insulin if things are working properly. and you're going to slam that blood sugar back into the ground. When that happens, when you have those peaks and valleys, it does a couple different things. Number one, it causes inflammation, makes this whole autoimmune process worse. And number two, it's toxic to the human brain. Causes your brain pathways to break down. And what it does to us as Americans is it makes us age faster than we should. But when you're dealing with these autoimmune processes, balancing blood sugar is huge. And oh, by the way, you know, the whole type 2 diabetes thing. What is type 2 diabetes? Insulin resistance, adult onset. It's from bouncing that up and down anymore. That's the old way of thinking about it, guys. Now what we know is that same immune system process that's attacking your joints, attacking your liver, attacking whatever, is also attacking the insulin receptors, driving your blood sugar up. So getting to the root cause of that immune system problem means also getting your blood sugar back under control. That's how we get a lot of people here off of metformin and all their other drugs. Okay? All right, continue on. Number 4 is the liver. When we don't digest proteins properly, those undigested proteins have a tendency to park themselves in the liver, plugging your liver up and making the immune system process worse. This is just from looking at the blood work. This is where we need to go. Okay? Now let's talk specifically about this part of it here. Can anyone tell me where 70 to 80% of their immune system is actually found?
Your gut.
It's in your gut. The key to autoimmunity is found in your gut. I could say that like 7 more times because it's that important. The key to autoimmunity is found in your gut. Okay, here's what we need to look at. Number 1, there's a process called leaky gut syndrome. And it looks something like this. Your intestinal wall is lined with these cells that are long, skinny cells like this, and then you have a blood vessel found down here at the other end. This term leaky gut syndrome basically means that you went through this thing called stress. Who here does not have any stress?
Oh, sorry about
Who here's full of crap? No, I'm just kidding. Look, we all have stress before. The stress comes from all sorts of different forms, but the number 1 stress in your life is not your husband, but it is the standard American diet. We eat garbage, and it is killing us, literally. Okay? So you combine standard American diet with antibiotics, steroids, children stress, grandkids stress, aging parent stress, money stress, divorce stress, all that other crap that happens to us, this is the system that's going to affect first. And when that happens, these cute little bonds that are between these cells, those bonds break down and actually create gaps within our gut wall. So instead of eating, let's just say Kentucky Fried Chicken, and having our guts break Kentucky Fried Chicken down into proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, etc., and allowing them to pass neatly and cleanly into the bloodstream, it's actually going to go through as whole food down into here into KFC. And if KFC gets into our bloodstreams, what do you think happens?
Plugs them.
Okay, not only does it plug them, as in inflammation, heart disease, etc., but it drives your immune system berserk. And your immune system starts mounting attacks to wherever you are genetically predisposed to having those attacks. So if lupus is the reason why you're here, when you eat certain foods, that your immune system gets revved up and it's going to attack your connective tissue. Okay? If you eat certain foods and you have rheumatoid arthritis, your immune system gets revved up and starts attacking your joints. Okay? Psoriasis on your skin. Alzheimer's happens in the brain. All from this leaky gut syndrome causing this attack to happen. Does that make sense to everyone? Has any of you heard it before? I'm going to leave time at the end for questions, so if you just write them down, we'll get to them, okay? Now, there's another component to this. It's called dysbiosis. Dysbiosis basically means bad gut bugs. In your colon, you have bacteria that is supposed to be there. You cannot live without this bacteria, and it can't live without you. It's a symbiotic relationship. Okay? So you have what we call good gut bugs, and we have bad gut bugs. So, as we're going through life and we get sick and they put us on antibiotics, it kills them all. Then we expose ourselves to an environment that re-inoculates us with bad gut bugs. And the key to it here is that the good butt bugs, I'm making up words now, okay? The good ones, they eat toxins and poop nutrients. The bad ones eat nutrients and poop toxins. So if you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria in your gut, they leave these toxins behind, what do you think that does to your immune system?
Makes it very hard.
It makes it harder.
Well, it's probably confusing.
Confuses it, drives its nuts, but keeps it in that constant inflammatory, stressful state. And if you go back to here, what do you think that's doing to your brain?
You mean I have one first?
Hey man, you're walking, talking, breathing, and joking with me. You got a brain.
Hey, I got a really good one right here that keeps me around.
So
You know.
you're keeping this part of your brain in a stressful response all the time. I'm going to keep coming back to that, okay? But if this is happening here, plus we got food sensitivities here, can you see how this makes it worse? All this stuff compounds up on top of each other, but you keep going back to the doctor to change your medications. They keep telling you to eat whatever you want, yet this is the cause. And so far what you've done is treated the symptoms. I'm not done yet either. This goes on. Okay? There's also something that we're dealing with now called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which basically means those gut bugs that are in your colon, they're supposed to stay in your colon. They're not supposed to get in your small intestine. But when they get into your small intestine, all hell breaks loose. And that keeps driving your immune system. Folks, this is the key to autoimmunity right here. Well, let me rephrase that. This is what we can do something about this. Okay? Now, you go back to what the triggers are. What's driving your immune system nuts? This is the main trigger that we can deal with. Yes, there's other things that are issues. There's heavy metal toxicities. There's underlying infections. There's stuff that we really have no control over, but we can control this. All right, who's with me so far? Hey, nobody's asleep yet. That's good. Hey, all right. So I could go on and on about the gut, but I do want to talk just briefly about the liver. We talked about before having those undigested proteins getting caught in the liver and plugging it up. Okay, those undigested proteins are coming because this is broken down. All right, those undigested proteins are coming because we have too little stomach acid. When we have too little stomach acid, this is also going to affect the gallbladder. Any of you still have one? Hey, your gallbladder is supposed to secrete bile, which helps you absorb fat. But if you don't have enough stomach acid, you're not going to secrete bile, so it stays in the gallbladder and it starts to turn into paste and then rocks, and then they got to cut the thing out. Right? What my point is it also plays a role. You can't just look at this and say, oh, you've got lupus, let's treat you like this. You have to look at the whole picture, the entire individual. All right. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is what we call your adrenal glands. Your adrenals sit on top of your kidneys. They are only about the size of walnuts. These things are responsible for secreting the stress hormones known as cortisol, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. So, cortisol is a good thing. You can't live without cortisol. Now, you guys are sitting here absorbing what I'm telling you, but you're mostly at rest. While I'm standing up here acting like an idiot, jumping around yelling at you. So, what does my respiration look like compared to yours?
Probably quicker.
It's higher. What about my heart rate? Higher. Okay? Am I sweating more than you? Yes. Okay? I'm up here. My muscles need oxygen right now. Okay? My brain's going 90 miles an hour, and I'm up here just bouncing my gums, hoping you're listening to what I tell you. Because if what I tell you makes sense to you, I want you to make an appointment with me so I can see if I can help you. Okay? So I'm a little excited up here. All of those processes are a result of my adrenal glands dumping these hormones into my body, making those things happen. Right now, I am in a fight or flight response. Okay, compared to you guys that are a little more relaxed, taking it in, digestion. You guys are in a parasympathetic. I can't talk. You guys are in a parasympathetic state right now, the feed or breathe nervous system. These levels should be lower. Okay? My point is your adrenal glands respond to stress. When you get stressed, your brain sends signals to your adrenal glands and you get those hormones. Now, if this stuff is happening over here and you're in a constant state of stress, what's going to happen here? Nosedive, right? Your adrenal glands go goofy. When your adrenal glands go goofy, a couple things happen. Cortisol, in abnormal amounts, is toxic to the brain, specifically the hippocampus, which is the part of your brain that controls or does short-term memory. Okay, so you walk into rooms, forget why you're there. Sound familiar? Okay. It causes your blood sugar to elevate. Anybody here got a cortisone shot and watched the blood sugar spike through the roof? That's why. Okay? And it causes you to gain weight when you don't want to gain weight. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Don't raise your hands. You got an adrenal problem. Okay? Now here's the kicker. Epinephrine and norepinephrine. These guys are toxic to the pain nerves. So, when people have issues here, I'll borrow you, Bob. When I walk up to someone and I touch them on the shoulder, this shouldn't hurt. But if you have a problem with these hormones being elevated, it hurts like crazy. It causes you to hurt in areas where it shouldn't hurt. Like right there. Okay? These are the patients that I come up to and I'll put a little piece of monofilament, like a little piece of fishing line, and I'll push it on their toe, and they jump out of their skin because it hurts, and they shouldn't hurt. I always laugh when I talk about that, because inevitably there's always a spouse that elbows their spouse and says, "See, that's what I'm talking about." Okay? When this is going on, this will also crash your hormone system, which will further mess up your blood sugar. But when your body is in a stress response, it knows it can't live without cortisol, but it can live without sex. So we see your libido drive into the ground. Okay? Now, how does that relate back to here? What does this part of your brain do?
Up and on.
Relay.
It's your nervous, it's your off and on switch for your sympathetic nervous system. So if it's in constant 911 mode because of this happening over here, how's that going to affect your adrenal glands? Keeps them ramped up, keeps you in that 911 response, which makes you more susceptible to pain, which makes you more susceptible to breakdown, which makes you more susceptible to autoimmune attack and the symptoms that come from them. Okay? Now, we're going to get into what to do about it, but I just want to make sure everybody's clear on the big picture here. Okay? You're just dying to ask me something, aren't you? Please.
Well, for one, I've known you for a while now. And for two, you know my family pretty well. Plus, you've helped me get my shoulder done.
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Lana Hedrick is my mom.
Okay, all right, now the pieces are starting to come together.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyways, I know for sure that I was in a really bad car accident up in North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
I was flown down here, and I'm lucky to be alive a
Hallelujah.
long time ago.
Good.
And thank goodness I found her, and she's put up with me long enough to find you again. And everything. But I need to know, since I was in a farm relation,
Mm-hmm.
and we rarely, until I got older, into like you said, into the bad foods.
Right.
What happens if I don't eat 90% of half the things like they did, and I still have epilepsy or everything like that? And I haven't done any drugs.
If I could be frank with you, I have no clue how to answer that right now based on the information that I have. I'm not even going to try to get there. I need to meet with you privately, get more information.
Okay.
Let me help you figure that out, because right now I don't have a flipping clue.
Oh, you're good.
I'm about to give you general information that if you do anything tonight, besides make an appointment with me, follow the general information that I'm about to give you.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Now, number one thing that we do with our patients is there's actually some blood testing that can be done to look for food sensitivities. For tonight's purpose, I'm going to tell you the top 3 foods that are driving people crazy. In fact, I showed you a list of them before we even started. Okay, top 4 foods. Gluten, the protein found in wheat. I could go on for an hour about it, but I'm not going to. It's not the same stuff that was in the 1800s. We're spraying chemical crap all over it now to produce it, and our immune systems just do not recognize it anymore. It causes this reaction to happen. Please just take my word for it. If you want some good reads, I'll give you some good reads. Okay. Number 2 is dairy. When you pasteurize dairy, it kills the enzymes your body needs to absorb it. And so those proteins float around being unrecognized by our immune system and drives this whole pathway. And number 3 is soy. Soy. Okay? Soy has been so highly genetically modified that you can spray it with Roundup and it does not die. But the weeds around it do. And then we ingest it. Okay? Roundup is quote unquote safe for human consumption. Brought to you by the same people as Agent Orange, which was perfectly safe, right? Okay. But the problem is it kills off your gut bugs. And when you lose these gut bugs, you're prone to the bad gut bugs, and we all know what happens when a bad gut bug hit. Sugar is sugar should be moved to number 1. It's just a highly, highly inflammatory thing. Okay, now that's general information. So generally, I will have most of my patients follow, which is basically a paleo diet. which is meats, fruits, and vegetables. Okay, now I have a book that we've done that has menus, recipes, and shopping lists for you to follow, but there's an awful lot of information out there about paleo diets. I recommend them every day. How's your energy since you started it?
Much better.
It's pretty amazing how much of this you can take care of just by eating clean. In fact, I sent out an email, I did a post a couple days ago from a gas station that had a healthy food aisle. Did any of you see that? You saw this. There's nothing healthy about what we're being told is healthy. My job is to teach you how to eat to get all this stuff to calm down. Okay? So, number 2 part of this is we do have a detox that we use, where for 1 week, I have you take a couple enzymes to help you break down the proteins in your foods more thoroughly so you can get more nutrition out of those foods. Okay? In fact, tomorrow, here's a secret, okay? You're going to get this video emailed to you tomorrow or the next day. I will include a link so you can actually get a PDF of the book. Okay? So you'll see all this lined out for you. All right? So for the first week, we do a round of enzymes for 2 to 3 weeks or longer if you're doing better. Okay? We have you follow the paleo part of the diet. And then when the 4th week rolls around, then we start reintroducing foods we know you're not sensitive to. You can tell I'm tired. My handwriting's really getting bad. Okay? That's when we start reintroducing the foods. So if you can have rice, for example, we want you to have it. But our objective here is to teach you how to eat. So once you're through with me, whether that takes 2 months, 3 months, 6, a year, whatever, I want you to be able to take care of yourself. Because ultimately what I want out of this is, yeah, I want you to make an appointment because I want to know if I can help you. But what I want are people, can I pick on you, Bob?
Yeah.
I want people like the Fosters that are getting better, that know how to take care of themselves, but they're down there in Pocatello telling people where to go with these problems. That's what I want out of this. I am here to teach you. I'm not here just to throw drugs at you. In fact, I can't tell you to take drugs or not take drugs, and that's not my job. And frankly, it's illegal. I want to teach you how to take care of yourself so that you can leave here in a better place you were, go back to your doctor and say, I'm feeling better, what can we do about this list of medications? Did I say everything in English? Hey, Amanda, did I cover everything? What are you grinning about? All right, so I've covered basically everything that I want to cover tonight. Before we open the floor and start asking questions, I want to address the top 2 questions I get. Number 1, does insurance and Medicare pay for this? No, they don't. This is outside of their box. This is outside of their scope, what they deem as medically necessary. Please don't shoot the messenger, okay? My promise to you is you will not go from one step to the next in this office not knowing exactly what to expect. Which takes me to the second question. How much does it cost? Tonight, if you make the appointment and pay for the appointment tonight, it's going to be $65. Did you hear me that time, Amanda?
Yes.
Okay, we're communicating. Hey, it's going to cost $65, and here's what we're going to do. Amanda is going to give you a stack of paperwork. She'll set the appointment for you. She'll give you the paperwork. Please have it filled out ahead of time. It's thorough, it's annoying, it's a pain, but it gives me awesome history on what's happening. And it saves us time. So please fill it out ahead of time. Whatever lab work you've had done, please bring it with you, or even better yet, send it in before your appointment. So I have a chance to review what's been done and what needs to happen. At that point, we sit down together, and one of the first things out of my mouth is going to be, what are your expectations? What are you hoping to accomplish? Then we jump into your history, your exam, and we start looking at different pathways. By the time we get through that appointment, I will know whether or not we can help you. If we can help you, great. Then we're going to talk about what other tests need to be done. Then we'll figure out exactly how much everything costs, and talk about financial options. If I can't help you, I'm going to tell you at that time, look, I'm sorry, I can't help you. There's more here than we can do, and we're going to part ways, and I'm going to wish you the best. I know that's harsh and cruel, but sometimes that is the reality. Okay? All right. I'm going to turn off the camera and let you ask